HOA demanded I move my boat, a tale of overreach, defiance, and one neighbor's quiet rebellion that sparked a community-wide movement. It started with a knock on the door, a plain envelope, no postage, no return address, just a bold black stamp across the seal, HOA notice. Inside was a letter that wasted no time. You are in violation of Article 10, Section 3C of the Lakeside Cove HOA bylaws. Personal watercraft may not be visible from the street. You are hereby instructed to remove or conceal your boat within 7 days or face daily fines of $150. I stared at the letter, dumbfounded. The boat in question? A 16-foot bass boat that had been parked neatly on a concrete pad beside my garage, not blocking the street, not an eyesore, and certainly not in anyone's way. It had been there for nearly 4 years. Nobody had ever said a word, until now. I walked outside and looked at it, covered, clean, and parked behind a privacy fence, barely visible from the street unless you were really looking. Apparently, someone was looking. I called the HOA office the next morning and got routed to compliance manager Phyllis Turner, a woman who wielded the rule book like it was the Constitution. "It's nothing personal," she said in that tone people use when it's absolutely personal. "But the rules are the rules." I asked when the rule changed. She said it didn't. They were just enforcing it more strictly now. Enforcing it more strictly, meaning selectively, meaning someone complained. I drove around the neighborhood, counted 6 other boats, 2 jet skis, 1 camper, all visible from the street. No violation stickers, no envelopes, just mine. I called a few neighbors. Turns out I wasn't the only one suddenly getting enforced. Another neighbor got fined for their kid's basketball hoop, someone else for a faded flag. The HOA had quietly elected new board members after the last election, barely announced, and the new crew had a different vibe, strict, quiet, and a little too comfortable with power. That's when I decided not to move the boat. I wrote a polite letter requesting a formal appeal. They denied it, via email this time, and tacked on another $150 fine. So I dug deeper. I pulled up the bylaws. Article 10, Section 3C, sure enough, said boats must not be visible from the street. But it hadn't been updated in over a decade. And more importantly, there was no photographic proof in my violation letter. Just their word. So I asked for evidence, and that's when things got interesting. I received a photo, clearly taken from my next-door neighbor's upstairs window. The angle was unmistakable. And that neighbor, he was the new HOA vice president. So now the HOA was spying on residents to issue retroactive fines? I posted the letter, the bylaw, and the photo in our neighborhood Facebook group with a simple caption. "Is this how we want to treat neighbors?" It went viral. Fast. Comments flooded in. Residents started sharing their own violation letters. Most were minor, a missing shrub, a political sign in a window. But the pattern was clear. The HOA was going on a power trip. Then a retired judge named Harold, who lived down the street, messaged me privately. "Did you know the HOA is required to notify residents before any policy enforcement change?" he asked. "And they're required to give 30 days notice before issuing a fine?" No, I did not know that. Turns out, the HOA had skipped that part. Big mistake. With Harold's help, we drafted a legal challenge and hand-delivered it to the board. At the next meeting, which was packed thanks to our neighborhood group, I read the challenge aloud. I showed the photo. I read the outdated bylaw. Then Harold stood up and calmly reminded the board of the law. You could feel the room turn. After a tense silence, the board agreed to pause enforcement on visible personal property violations until a full review could be done. But the damage was done, and the momentum had shifted. In the following weeks, residents organized. We formed a transparency committee, started collecting signatures for a recall election. We demanded the HOA publish all changes, all fines, and all contracts online. Eventually, we forced a vote. And the board? Ousted. The new board rewrote the bylaws with actual input from the community. They added a rule requiring photographic evidence and written warnings before any fine. They removed the clause about visibility from the street and replaced it with reasonable language. No more secret fines. No more spying neighbors. And my boat? Still parked beside the garage. Still covered. Still quiet. But now, it stands for something else. a reminder that silence gives power to the wrong people, and that sometimes it only takes one person refusing to back down to remind a neighborhood that rules should serve the people, not control them.